Dr. Pinther?
Here.
Dr. Blasco?
Here.
Dr. Champagne's excused. Dr. Pisani?
Here.
Dr. Sanders?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Here.
Dr. Lee?
Here.
Miss Pate?
Here.
Mrs. Bethea?
Here.
Miss Shadler?
Here.
And Miss Chofie. You have a quorum.
Here. Thank you. Public comment? We have no one for public comment. We're going to move on to new business. Item A, board to determine and approve the reasonable investigation costs and attorney fees regarding the formal hearings for George B. Miller, DMD, NRS 622.400 for possible action.
So you should have received a breakdown of all the costs that were associated with the investigation and informal hearings. And I believe when you were deliberating, Ms. Long went over the change that was made that now regulatory bodies have to determine whether the costs are reasonable. So that's why we're here. You also should have received the breakdown, the actual copies of the invoices associated with those costs. So if you have any questions regarding those, I'll be more than happy to go over those with you.
And Ms. Long is also on the phone if anybody has any questions for her.
So the total cost came to $23,034.04. The only thing that we had not received in was the court reporter fees for the hearing on the 14th. I told her to lowball me. So I looked back at other ones that were formal hearings, and they're well over $1,000. It was going to be over 300 pages that she was transcribing, plus she has a $250 fee for the day. So I added $700 to the attorney fees. To the court reporter fees. Also, Dr. Pisani and Ms. Pate's fees were not included. Those were minused out because they were on the review panel. So Dr. Miller was not charged those fees.
I have a question about Dr. Strong's consent forms.
Okay.
And my question is, during the hearing, Melanie, you examined him and you asked him about how many hours he had spent reviewing the case. Do you remember that?
I do.
For what he said?
I don't recall what he said. I did believe that based on what I knew he had billed us from that time, that his estimate was pretty low. So if you recall, I also asked him that if his estimate differed from the written documentation that he had provided to the board, would he defer to that written documentation? And I believe he answered that yes, he would. This matter has been ongoing for close to 3 years, 2.5 years. So if he did not have an accurate recollection of the total number of costs or hours, or if he also might have misunderstood if I asked him how many hours he spent reviewing versus meetings. I don't know. I don't recall what his answer was, like I said, but I do believe that it was a little bit low compared to the written documentation that we had received.
Well, I never experienced one of those hearings and one of these reviews. About how many hours would be a normal review?
Well, it all depends on. It all depends on what has gone into it. In this particular case, there were 3, I believe, different informal hearings set that he came to. and reviewed in preparation for. The majority of our cases do not go to formal hearing. This one had to be scheduled twice, so there would have been review and preparation before each one. And so this is not a normal case, so it really can't be compared, just given the amount of time and the number of things that were set and the number of appearances that he had to make in this case. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I can't answer what a normal number of hours would be because each case is different.
Melanie, this is Pisani. I can speak to that and maybe help Dr. Moore understand. I was previously a DSO for many years. And what you find is that some the licensees will immediately try to understand the process and settle it as quickly and easily as they can. Other licensees don't really understand the statutes or how the process goes, and they resist it the whole time. But it is state law. You can't get away with just ignoring it. And I personally think that Dr. Miller just thought we didn't have any jurisdiction over his license, and he kept avoiding it. He walked out on his own attorney, and then she fired him, and that's how he ended up with the final attorney that he had. So the hours spent are uncountable, and I know our DSOs don't bill for every split second like you may imagine. They kind of just spend their time, and it's almost a volunteer effort.
So the
whatever
review file pending box, what is the review file / pending box, if that's checked, what does that mean?
That means that when they're assigned the case.
You know what, I can, actually, I'm sorry, I don't want to take everybody's phone time. I'll defer, if I can put my questions of how those boxes and what they mean, I'll put them in an email to, is that okay? Can I send it to Melanie? Or who can I send them to? And then that way I won't take any more of anybody's time.
Well, you can do that, and I'll be happy to answer them, but I think it's important that if you're, for you to vote on this, that you have an understanding of what you're voting on. The review file is when they get the file, they review it. If they have to review medical records, if they, it's the review of the file and the documentation that leads ultimately to the next step in the investigation as to whether or not there are certain findings or recommendations that are going to be made.
Also, just to interject, it also could be if the patient was treated by a subsequent treating dentist and it's listed, then that DSO, although I try to catch it at the time the complaints are noticed, if it doesn't, or through a conversation with the patient, they realize that they're now treating with another dentist, then the DSO will contact me and say, okay, I need to see, we need to request that dentist record. And then once they review that, they may click that box again because now they've reviewed additional information.
Yeah, I just added it up. It was 68 hours, and I was just trying to figure out where all those hours went. There's 3 separate informal hearings, at least, and I didn't know that you guys ever got an informal hearing. It was when I was listening to the last Friday, it kind of sounded like that he skipped out and got sick and everything got kind of put by the wayside. So I was just curious how all of that.
Right. He actually had one informal hearing that he no-showed. He had another informal hearing scheduled, and prior to the informal hearing,
Discussions were had.
Discussions were had, and he up and left before we went on the record. Right.
So Dr. Moore, our DSOs they have to prepare for those informal hearings, whether the guy shows up or not. And it's very similar to the formal hearing. So he has to have evidence. He has to report on all his findings and recommendations. So he did that 2 separate times.
Three, and then twice for
Three
formal
separate
hearings.
times. And the final hearing. Right.
Two formal hearings. If you remember, on October 5th of 2018, he was scheduled for an informal hearing where he was asking for that to be
He got
continued. But if you had not approved the continuation, his request, the DSO has to be prepared to go that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'm good. I just, I was having difficulties trying to, there's at least 4 informal hearing checkboxes. There are from 17 through 18. I just couldn't do the math in my head that quick. So I got
If you
five formal.
Yeah. If you recall,
Okay.
also, there was a big binder of exhibits.
Get that.
Yeah, that would have been reviewed, out of necessity multiple times. There would have been discussions. There were discussions with Dr. Miller. There was an evaluation of the patient. This case went on, like I said, for nearly 3 years. And so,
Which is not the norm.
which is not the norm.
And it's not the norm to have multiple informal hearings.
Right. Okay. Oh, sorry, guys.
That's okay. No.
Mrs. Sanders, I'd like to make a motion to accept and approve the investigative costs and attorney's fees as presented.
I'm sorry, Dr. Sanders, this is Sophia. Can you include in that motion that the board reviews the fees and costs and they find them reasonable, necessary, and actually incurred?
Absolutely, and then that motion to add that the board has reviewed the findings and costs as required by statute.
Second, Pate.
Second, Casani.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Dr. Kasani can't second, because he was on the review panel, is that correct?
Right, you can't.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Pate and Pisani cannot. They have to recuse from this vote.
Pinther.
Do we have a second?
And then you have to note that you abstained.
Butler, second.
Any abstentions?
Pate.
Casani.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Abstain, Casani.
She already said.
Any opposed?
Oops.
Motion passes. Moving on to item B in new business, approve an installment plan for George B. Miller, DMD, for the reimbursement of investigation costs and attorney fees pursuant to NRS 622.400 for possible action.
So Friday after the hearing, I reached out to Mr. Kelly to let him know the results of the deliberations. And in our conversation, I did ask him that should his client need an installment plan, that I would notice that on this meeting. And he did indicate to me that his client would need to pay the board back in payments. So we have to make that part of the order. So right now you have him supervised for a period of 12 months. So one of the options would be he could begin the first payment 30 days after he receives the notice of the order, with payments of $1,919.50. So he would make 10 payments at that amount, and then the final payment he would make, the final payment would be $3,839. So that's an option.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve Blackstone's
statements are, as outlined, completing at the end of the monitoring period.
Second, Sanders.
Any abstentions?
Kisani.
Pate.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item C, amend the supervised provision of the decision approved by board on June 14th, 2019 regarding George B. Miller, DMD, for possible action.
You won't need to do that since you kept the payments within the 12-month supervised period, so we can just withdraw letter C with no action.
So no action on letter C. Moving on to D, approve independent and
Mediation, by the way, just when you read that.
Yeah,
It's supposed to
It's
be
supposed to be
private mediation.
not arbitration.
On D?
You can, yeah, I mean, you can,
Just for the,
yeah.
approve, item D, approve independent, private arbitrary in lieu of a court-assigned mediator at the request and cost of plaintiffs in the Abbey Dental Center case for possible action.
And just to clarify for this, the agenda states that we're approving, that the issue is about an arbitrator. It should say mediator. Arbitration and mediation are somewhat different, and what has been requested by the plaintiffs in that case is a mediation, not an arbitration. So just to make that clear, as to what it is that we're voting on, or that you're
and at
voting
the
on.
cost of the plaintiffs.
Right, and they have also agreed that, the plaintiffs have agreed that they would take care of the costs of that private mediation.
Do we have a motion?
A motion that I make a motion we approve the independent private arbitrator in lieu of court-assigned arbitrator.
Mediator.
I approve an independent private mediator.
Thank you.
In lieu of a court-assigned mediator. Sorry.
And did you want to approve our litigation counsel to make the final determination as to which mediator is agreed upon?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to include that.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second, Sanders.
Any abstentions? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Whoa, let's make sure we got that right.
She's ahead.
So let's do that again because it kind of got lost, and since we're being recorded, I want to make sure that it's accurate. So let's
Okay.
do that again.
All right, so from the beginning?
Just
No, just
any,
So
all in favor.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to the item E, request the board issue a subpoena, Deuces Teethum, signed by board secretary treasurer to Dr. X. Dr. X has refused the board's request for records in connection with a patient's verified complaint in a violation of NRS 629.061 for possible action.
416.
016.
Actually, it is 061. I believe that the initial agenda that went out had,
Recuse instead of refuse.
yeah, it had some typos in it. So the actual statute is 629061. Essentially, there is a verified complaint. The dentist at issue has indicated that he's not going to give us the records. So we're asking for the board to subpoena them.
That was a motion, Penter?
Second, Pisani, and Blackville.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passed. Any discussion?
I just wanted to make clear on this that that this dentist's position is that we are not entitled to these records, and that the board does not have jurisdiction over this complaint. And so I just wanted to make that clear, that that is why he is refusing to submit the records in response to our request for records and the patient's verified complaint. So.
All right. So any opposed? Any abstentions?
We did that.
We did that.
And then motion passes.
No, you do, because you were in discussion, that's when you chimed in.
Right.
So now you do all in favor.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Item F, appoint disciplinary screening officers DSO NRS 631.190 for possible action. We'll take them all as one. Dr. Andrew Stutz, Dr. James Mai, and Dr. Prashanti Bulu. Huh? Do we have a motion?
I have a question, Dr. User. How did these new people get to be a DSO officer?
On our website, we have recruitment. So you can go onto the website if you're a dentist or a hygienist, and if you want to either be an infection control inspector, if you want to be an anesthesia evaluator, obviously you have to have an anesthesia permit, or a DSO, they can fill out the application or request the application from our website, and then they would submit it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so I also want to point out, just if anybody needs to make any disclosures, Dr. Stutz and Dr. Ma are affiliated with UNLV, and Dr. Balu is affiliated with Roseman. So to the extent anybody needs to make any disclosures, please do so. Dr. Sanders?
I would like to disclose I am retired faculty from UNLV School of Dental Medicine. I know Dr. Stutz and Dr. Ma, but I have no significant interactions with them in any capacity with the school or in private practice.
Okay.
Just for clarification, Lorenzo Bethea, my husband, works at UNLV. He has no interaction with the dental faculty, so I would have no conflict of voting.
Sophia, do you feel there's any reason for either of them to abstain?
No, they don't need to abstain.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Pinther.
Second? Did we have a second?
Pate.
Sorry.
Any discussion?
A lot of peas tonight.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to item 4, public comment. There's no public comment at this time. And 5, announcements.
Is the next meeting September 13th?
Next, July 19th. Okay. So July 19th is the next meeting. Also dental renewals. You have to have your renewal done by June 30th. We've sent out reminder postcards for the ones who have not renewed. So if you have not renewed or your colleagues have not renewed, get the word out. June 30th.
Any other announcements? Then we are going to adjourn the meeting. Thank
Motion.
you. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, whoever hasn't had it.
What?
So moved, Kasani.
Thank-
Danvers.
Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.